Have you ever wondered why there are people who seem never to be provoked? Even when attacked, misunderstood, or challenged, they can still smile, say little, and yet make others adjust their attitude. While most of us react instantly to even a small jab, they stand firm, unmoved by anyone. Carl Jung believed that emotional self-mastery is not a skill to learn, but a state of consciousness, where you understand your own mind so deeply that no one can control you through emotion anymore. He said that most people do not truly live. They merely react, driven by wounds that have never been healed. When you feel angry, hurt, or offended, the problem is not with others, but with the unacknowledged parts of yourself. In today's video, we will explore 7 Jungian principles, 7 steps to master your emotions, understand the mechanism of anger, and remain at peace even when the world is in chaos. These are not tips to stay calm, but a true journey of mastering your mind, turning reaction into awareness and emotion into wisdom. Stay until the end of this video, because you may realize no one can make you angry unless you give them that power. Number 1. The one who truly makes you angry is not another person. It's the unacknowledged part within you. Have you ever wondered why certain people can make you lose your temper with just one sentence, one look, or even their silence? Some days you feel perfectly in control. Then someone shows up, says something trivial, and rage rises in you like a wave you cannot stop. You try to breathe, stay calm, but inside you boil. You think, why do they make me so angry? In truth, they don't. They simply touched a part of you that has not yet been seen or healed. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Others don't really control you. They merely trigger something in you that you haven't yet understood. When someone irritates you, it's not because they bring the anger, it's because they've pressed on an old wound that already existed. Imagine you're driving peacefully when suddenly someone cuts you off. If your mind is calm, you just shake your head and continue. But if deep inside you already carry feelings of being disrespected or overlooked, that small act ignites you instantly. Not because it's serious, but because it revives the old sense of, "I'm not being respected," buried long ago. The anger doesn't come from them. It comes from your memory, from the pain that hasn't been acknowledged. Instead of suppressing it, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Every anger is a letter from the unconscious. If you dare to open it, you'll find an unhealed wound or a part of you longing to be recognized. Once you realize this, you no longer pour your rage outward, but begin to speak with your wounded self. "I know you feel disrespected, but I see you." When that part feels seen, the anger dissolves naturally. There's an old story Jung loved to quote. A student asked his master, "How can I stop being hurt by others?" The master smiled. "If someone offers you a gift and you don't take it, who does it belong to?" "To them," replied the student. The master said, "Exactly. If someone insults you and you don't accept it, the insult still belongs to them." Every time we get angry, we've unconsciously accepted the gift others throw at us, allowing their energy into our inner space. Think about what triggers you: a partner's silence, a parent's criticism, someone ignoring you. Silence can awaken the fear of abandonment. Judgment recalls memories of being belittled. Neglect rekindles the pain of not being worthy of attention. Once you understand that, others no longer have the power to make you explode, because you know the anger isn't about them, Emotional control doesn't mean not having emotions. It's the ability not to let emotions rule your actions or peace. Anger is not bad. It's a signal showing you where you are still incomplete. When you dare to face it, you move closer to the wholeness Jung called the self, where consciousness and the unconscious merge into one. This is the first art of emotional mastery, not to run from anger, but to listen to it. Not to blame others, but to use your reactions as mirrors to see yourself more deeply. Because when you understand who within you is reacting, you stop reacting unconsciously. You begin to choose, and in that choice, you become free. Remember, no one can make you angry unless you give them that power. Each time you feel like reacting, pause, breathe, and ask, which part of me is being touched right now? Just one moment of awareness is enough to step out of emotional victimhood and become the master of your inner world. Others may act, speak, or provoke, but you know the anger doesn't come from them. It comes from you, and therefore it's within your control. Number 2, anger is the language of the forgotten part of you. Once you realize that others don't actually make you angry, the next doesn't use words, it uses reactions. When you shout, it's not because you hate the person, but because a part of you is screaming, "See me, I'm still here." And if you're brave enough to pause amid the storm, instead of trying to be right or to win, you can ask, who within me is speaking right now? This is the beginning of inner dialogue, the conversation between you and the forgotten parts of yourself. Jung believed that every part of us, even those we fear or reject, holds wisdom. Anger, if listened to, can teach you something about your true needs, respect, acknowledgement, or simply rest. But instead of listening, we react, we shout, walk away, or pretend it didn't happen. And by doing that, we repeat what the world once did to us, ignoring ourselves. Jung called this soul fragmentation. When a part is cut off from the whole, it returns as extreme emotion demanding to be recognized. Jungian therapists say every repressed emotion is like a child locked in a dark room of the soul. It knocks, begging to be let out. But we turn on the TV, work harder, scroll endlessly, anything to avoid hearing it. Until one day, the knocking becomes too loud, and we call it anger. Yet if you open the door, you'll find no monster, only a tired child needing your embrace, whispering, "You heard me." That is the real power of emotional mastery as Jung taught it. Not suppression, but listening. When you decode the language of emotions, you no longer fear them. You can sit with anger, observe it, even thank it, because it shows you where healing is needed. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." Anger is part of that journey, pain trying to transform into awareness. And when you can dialogue with it instead of running away, you take the first step toward mastering your inner world. Emotional mastery doesn't mean not feeling. It means knowing that every feeling exists for a reason. When you listen instead of repress, you turn reaction into awareness, chaos into clarity, and anger into subtle intelligence. From here, the journey ascends to a new level, from reaction to observation. Because as Jung said, between stimulus and response, there is always a space, and in that space, freedom begins. If you've ever had such a moment, when anger made you realize something deeper within, share it in the comments. Your story might help someone understand that behind every outburst lies not evil, but a soul longing to be seen. Number 3. Reaction is reflex. Observation is power. Once you see that anger isn't caused by others, but mirrors what's unhealed in you, Jung takes it further. You cannot control the world, but you can control the moment right before you react. That moment, between stimulus and response, is where all human power resides. Jung said the unconscious person lives like a puppet, pulled by strings of emotion they don't understand. They get angry thinking they've been insulted, suffer believing the world is against them, while in truth, they're reacting from old programming. But the conscious person, who has learned to observe instead of react, will not let the outer world define their inner state. Between the moment you're about to explode and the moment you stop, there is a tiny space where you can breathe, see, and choose. If you react, your past speaks for you. If you observe, your awareness does. And in that second, you stop being the puppet. You become the one holding the strings. Power here isn't domination. It's freedom. The freedom not to let anyone control your mood, not to let anger drag you into chaos. Jung believed that the moment we pause to observe, we step out of the unconscious. Only then do we truly choose instead of merely react. In the Bible, when Jesus was crucified, people mocked and tortured him. In a situation where anyone would react with rage or despair, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That wasn't only forgiveness, it was the highest expression of emotional awareness. He didn't act from instinct or pain. He observed from a higher level of consciousness, seeing that others' anger was born from ignorance. When you stand as the observer, you no longer get caught in others' emotional dramas. They may shout, accuse, provoke, but you see clearly, this is their energy, not mine. Like someone sitting on the shore watching waves, you see both the wave and yourself, and thus you are not swept away. In Jungian therapy, there's a simple but powerful practice. Pause for 3 seconds before speaking or acting when emotion rises. Those 3 seconds are the bridge between unconscious and conscious. In them, you breathe, feel your body, and ask, "What's really happening inside me right now?" That short pause doesn't just calm you, it raises your frequency of awareness. A female leader once shared how she practiced this during conflicts. In a meeting, a male colleague publicly criticized her strategy. The room went silent. Instead of defending, she smiled and asked, "What makes you think that?" She listened calmly, without tension or justification, just observation. Afterward, that same colleague came to apologize for being too emotional. She didn't need to prove her power, she was power. Jung said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light." All carry messages. They're the soul's messengers saying something inside needs attention. Anger says, "My boundaries are being crossed." Sadness says, "I've lost something meaningful." Jealousy whispers, "I want permission to live like that." When you stop to listen, each emotion becomes a mirror revealing what you lack. Not an enemy, but a map guiding you back to yourself. When you feel emotional heat rising, instead of reacting, try silence for a few seconds. The quickened heartbeat, the tightness, that's not weakness. It's the signal saying, "I'm hurt." If you breathe and acknowledge it, you prevent emotion from turning into action. You choose to listen rather than obey. Neuroscientists found that simply naming an emotion begins to regulate it. When you say, "I'm angry" or "I'm anxious," the amygdala, the brain's emotion center, calms down, while the prefrontal cortex, the reasoning part, activates. Awareness itself restores control. That's exactly what Jung meant by, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." A designer named Laura in New York once said she used to lose sleep whenever clients criticized her. After Jungian therapy, she learned to let emotions speak. Whenever upset, she wrote 3 questions. What is this emotion saying? What is it protecting in me? What can I learn by listening? She realized she wasn't angry at clients. She was angry at herself for tying her worth to perfection. Once she saw that, Criticism became information, not threat. That's the difference between emotion mastering you and you mastering emotion. When emotion speaks, you can listen, reflect, learn. But when emotion commands, yell now. Prove yourself right, you've lost freedom. Jung believed true freedom doesn't come from controlling others, but from no longer being controlled by invisible forces within. Ancient wisdom illustrates this through the chariot and the driver. The horse is emotional, powerful, alive, capable of taking you far, but also capable of dragging you off cliffs. The driver is conscious. If holding the reins, he directs the horse. If not, he's dragged. Jung saw emotions as natural energy, not bad, only needing direction. You don't kill the horse, you learn to ride it. Shakespeare once wrote, "Give sorrow words. The grief that does not speak whispers the o'er-fraught heart and bids it break." That line echoes Jung's spirit. What you deny controls you. What you listen to frees you. So instead of asking, "How do I stop being angry?" ask, "What is anger trying to tell me?" Emotion, once recognized, becomes data, no longer a weapon against you. When you understand what truly hurts you, you don't need to overreact to protect yourself. When you know your limits, you can assert them calmly, not by shouting. From Jung's perspective, this is harmony between consciousness and the unconscious, where instincts aren't suppressed, but integrated. Like light entering a dark room, you don't chase darkness away. You simply allow it to be seen. Once seen, it loses its power over you. There is no wrong emotion, only wrong reactions. If you repress it, it controls you. If you obey it, it dominates you. But if you listen, it guides you to understanding. That is true freedom, not the absence of emotion, but the ability to feel everything while still holding the reins. If you too are learning to let emotions speak but not command, comment the word "listen" as a sign that you've begun befriending yourself. Number 5. Don't wear the mask of calm, become truly calm. Have you ever wondered why, even after learning to observe and listen to emotions, you still feel exhausted from keeping it together? It might be because you're not truly calm, you're just acting calm. And that's when the journey enters its next stage, removing that mask, so you don't just appear peaceful, you are peaceful. Jung called the persona the social mask, the image we show to fit in, be liked, be accepted, be seen as fine. But when worn too long, we mistake it for our real face. We smile when we want to cry, nod when we want to say no, and pretend serenity while chaos brews inside. Many think emotional control means not showing. They tell themselves, "I must stay calm. I can't be angry." But that's not control, that's repression. And what's repressed doesn't vanish. It waits, emerging as tension, insomnia, or sudden bursts of rage. Repression is not mastery. You can't call it calm when your body is rigid and your mind screams, "I must not be angry." True calm doesn't come from denying emotion, but from understanding its root. Jung said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." When you pretend not to feel anger or sadness, those emotions will return through sudden outbursts or quiet resentment. Real calm begins when you allow yourself to be honest. When you can say, "I'm angry," or "I'm disappointed," not to blame, but to see clearly what is there. A woman once shared that everyone in her family saw her as the peacemaker. Jung wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the opposites. True calm doesn't come from eliminating emotion, but from merging the heat of anger with the clarity of reason. If you only act calm, you live in tension. If you understand what disturbs you, you live in awareness. And awareness brings real peace, deeper than any mask can offer." So when someone irritates you, don't force a smile or say, "I'm fine." Be honest. "I'm angry, but I won't let it control me." Calmness isn't performance. It's the fruit of knowing yourself deeply. Number 6. Transform rather than retaliate. Turn the energy of anger into clarity. When you no longer have to act calm but are truly peaceful from within, you reach another level of emotional mastery, where anger is no longer a fire to avoid, but energy to transform. There's a paradox few see. Anger doesn't weaken you, reacting does. The moment you explode, you hand your energy to someone else. But when you pause, feel the heat fully, and don't act impulsively, you hold in your hands a raw life force Jung called psychic libido, the energy of life, instinct, and transformation. Jung didn't tell us to always stay calm. He wanted us to understand what happens inside when anger arises. Anger is the soul's raw voice when it feels boundaries crossed. But instead of listening, most people do the opposite. They yell, attack, prove. In truth, they're not fighting others. They're fighting their own pain. Yet if you stay and look deeper, you'll see that behind anger lies feeling disrespected, abandoned, denied. And if you're brave enough not to retaliate, you begin to transform that energy. Like Princess Diana, after a marriage of betrayal, she had every reason for revenge, but chose the opposite: silence and compassion. When the world expected a furious woman, she appeared in hospitals holding hands with HIV patients at a time when even a touch was taboo. That gesture changed how the world saw compassion. Diana once said, "Carry out a random act of kindness with no expectation of reward. One day someone might do the same for you." That simple sentence carries the essence of what Jung called turning dark energy into the light of consciousness. Another woman once said anger changed her life. She lived with a husband who belittled and controlled her. For years, she either stayed silent or exploded. Until one day, when he mocked her again, she stood still, listening to her body, her heart beat fast, breath sharp, then slow. She didn't react. That night, she wrote to understand. Then she realized she wasn't angry at him. She was angry at herself for allowing disrespect for so long. From that day, she never shouted again because she had reclaimed her power. That is transformation. Not avoidance or suppression, but holding energy long enough for it to turn into awareness. Jung called it sublimation, the transmutation of instinctual energy into consciousness and creativity. When you achieve that, you turn primitive reaction into spiritual strength. Anger then becomes your teacher, showing where you still need healing. Once you grasp this law, you start seeing anger as a tool, not an enemy. It says, "Something in me is being touched." If you react, you miss the lesson. If you stay, you gain illumination. Like fire, it burns if you touch it blindly, but warms if you know how to tend it. And like fire, the energy of anger, when held in awareness, becomes the light that clarifies everything: boundaries, needs, truth. Neuroscience agrees with Jung. Emotions are energy flowing through the nervous system. Harvard research found that if you pause for just 90 seconds before reacting, the amygdala's storm naturally subsides. Those 90 seconds are the boundary between unconscious and conscious, where anger can turn into wisdom. And then something miraculous happens. What once triggered you no longer does. Not because you've become numb, but because you understand energy. You begin to see anger not as a destroyer, but as a guide, showing you where you lack boundaries, self-respect, or forgiveness toward yourself. And when you observe instead of retaliate, that energy turns into clarity, a quiet light others can feel without you saying a word. Then you'll realize, emotional mastery isn't about defeating others, but about conquering yourself, gently, steadily, powerfully. If you believe true strength lies not in retaliation, but in transforming anger into awareness and compassion, like this video, as a signal to the universe that you're ready for a higher level of inner peace. Number 7. Don't let others define your mood. Most emotional storms in life don't come from big events, but from small things, a comment, a look, a silence that makes you feel not good enough. Once you've learned to transform anger instead of retaliate, your journey rises to the highest level, not just controlling reaction, but maintaining your center no matter how the world moves. Jung said, "The more a man lays stress on false possessions and the less sensitivity he has for what is essential, the less satisfying is his life." When your joy, sadness, confidence, or disappointment depends on someone's words or actions, you've lost your center. You live not from within, but from reflections in others' eyes. And that's when, as Jung said, you lose freedom, because you let others decide your worth. Look at today's online world. One negative comment can ruin someone's night, while 100 compliments can't make them believe in themselves. That says nothing about social media. It says their center lies outside. Mastery means pulling that center back in, not letting others decide when you're happy, hurt, or worthy. Jung's point is clear. Inner freedom comes when you stop vibrating to others' frequencies. Someone who insults you has no power to make you angry, unless you believe their words hold more truth than your inner knowing. Someone who abandons you doesn't make you worthless unless you believe their presence defines your value. A woman once said in therapy that whenever her boss criticized her, her self-worth collapsed. She worked twice as hard, checked messages constantly, waiting for praise to feel good enough. But journaling revealed she wasn't afraid of her boss. She was afraid of being seen as useless, just like in childhood, when her mother would go silent every time she made a mistake. Then she understood. Her pain wasn't from today's criticism, but from the inner child, still craving approval. When she held that child and said, "You've done enough," the fear vanished. Peace didn't come from others changing, it came when she no longer needed their validation. Jung called this individuation the process of returning to your true self. When you connect with the self, you no longer need the world to confirm you, because you already know who you are. Every compliment becomes an echo, every insult a passing breeze. One image Jung loved was the still lake. When your mind is calm, the world reflected in you appears clearly. But if the surface keeps rippling with praise and blame, all reflections distort. Mastery isn't about avoiding the wind, but returning to stillness, where you see clearly without being swept away. True strength isn't in what others think of you, but in being yourself, no matter what they think. When criticized, you can smile. That's their opinion, not my truth. When praised, you can thank them without depending on it for your worth. Because you know real value doesn't come from the world's reaction, but from your awareness of yourself. Strong people aren't those never affected, but those who return inward every time they're touched. They can feel anger or sadness, yet don't let anyone define their mood, because they know emotion is a choice, not a reflex. When you live like that, you realize freedom isn't controlling others. It's that no one can control you. People may misunderstand, criticize, or leave, but you remain at peace because you no longer need to prove anything. As Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Remember, mastering emotions isn't about not feeling, but about knowing you decide when your heart is calm. When your center lies within, the world may be loud, but you remain quiet. Others may praise or condemn, love or hate, but your inner light stays steady. You don't need fair winds or witnesses, only the courage to keep your own light. For that is the highest form of power Jung spoke of, the power of one who does not let the world define their soul. A person who truly masters their emotions is like a silent sculptor. They don't cut away ugly parts, nor rush to polish themselves to appear composed. They patiently carve each reaction, each anger, each wound, knowing every mark shapes maturity. From there, they walk through the world's chaos with a grounded soul. If you've ever asked, what allows someone to stay peaceful amid chaos? The answer isn't suppression or numbness. It's self-understanding, knowing where anger comes from, what fear is saying, and where true peace resides. Once you understand the language of your emotions, you're no longer controlled by them. You begin to steer the mind's direction. If this video resonates with you, share it to spread awareness of inner strength, the kind that doesn't need to prove, only to be. And don't forget to subscribe, because the journey to emotional mastery doesn't end here. It begins now, the moment you choose to look within instead of seeking outside. Have you ever wondered whether you are truly living, or merely repeating a script that was written long ago? Or perhaps you felt that you are living for others, for their expectations, rather than for yourself. There are days when you wake up and move through your routine like clockwork. The same road, the same faces, the same words, until your soul seems to have fallen asleep without you noticing. You smile, you nod, you keep going. But deep in your eyes there's a quiet emptiness no one can reach. Carl Jung, the master psychologist, once said that to truly live, we must look inward and know ourselves. Freedom doesn't come from pleasing someone else. It comes from living in alignment with who you are. When you live true to your essence, everything unfolds naturally. This video will be like an open door, inviting you to step out of autopilot and recognize the moments you are living a life that isn't truly yours. From there, you will see clearly the path to the life your heart truly longs for. A life where you no longer force yourself to meet anyone's expectations. The question is, are you ready to pause, let go of old habits, and start living fully for yourself? The journey of awakening begins right now, and you are the one holding the wheel, steering your life from this moment on. Number 1. Recognizing autopilot mode. when you live without truly living. Have you ever driven a long distance without remembering which turns you took? You can't recall which streets you passed, how many red lights you stopped at, or whether you turned left or right. It's as if your body moved on habit while your mind wandered somewhere far away. You reached your destination, but you weren't truly present for the journey. That is exactly what it feels like to live on autopilot. You still do everything: smile, reply to messages, get your work done. But deep inside, there is a strange void, an emptiness without a name, repeating over and over like an echo of something forgotten long ago. At first, you may not notice it because you still care, still try, and still feel fine. But one day, you suddenly realize you've been repeating old habits unconsciously, saying yes without agreeing, doing the right thing without feeling yourself in it, playing the expected roles, the good child, the perfect partner, the pleasant colleague, yet unable to remember the last time you truly felt alive. From a young age, we are taught to be right. Do what your parents expect. Choose the path society praises. Love someone who makes others feel at ease. At first, you thought this was good. But when you have everything in order, a decent job, a steady relationship, a socially approved image, you begin to hear a small voice within. If I weren't afraid or trying to meet expectations, would I live differently? I once heard a woman describe that moment. She had everything many people dream of: a warm family, a career to be proud of, and a life without lack. Yet one afternoon, as the light faded through her window, a strange feeling swept over her. She stood still for a long time, realizing she had walked so far down a familiar road that she no longer remembered when she began. In the stillness, a silent question arose. How many years had passed in a script she never wrote? Autopilot doesn't come from laziness. It comes from living too long in the fear of rejection. You say yes, not because you want to, but because you fear being disliked. You smile even when tired, because you fear others won't like the real you. Gradually, you live like a mirror, reflecting expectations, forgetting your true face. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The actions, choices, and feelings you are unaware of will steer your life, and you will think it is destiny." A man once told me he became an engineer simply because his father was one. He never asked himself if he truly loved the work. Every morning he woke up uninspired, but kept going because everything was fine. And that stability, though not wrong, never made him truly feel alive. Fine is the keyword of autopilot mode. You're not desperate, but not happy. Not sad, but not joyful. You move quietly through life as if rehearsing for something, but you don't know what. If you're in that state, know this: you are not alone. Many people are living without truly being present. But here's the good news. The moment you recognize it, you have already begun to awaken. Awakening doesn't require a grand decision. It begins the moment you pause and ask, am I living according to my values? Is this choice mine or someone else's? Do I feel free when I am myself? If the answer catches in your throat, it's a good sign. It means you are still connected to the living part inside you, the part that hasn't died, the part waiting for you to return. Jung didn't believe in overnight transformation. He believed in returning. placed your true self in the background. Each day, you chose the part of you that was easiest to accept to step forward. Day after day, you began living as a curated version of yourself, not because it was you, but because it was likable. In one Jungian therapy session, a woman walked in with a flawless appearance, neatly dressed, gentle smile, measured tone of voice. She recounted her life calmly and clearly, as if telling the story of someone far away. But when invited to pause and feel the present moment, her outer shell began to crack. The silence lasted only a few breaths before tears unexpectedly spilled over. She realized she no longer knew what she truly felt. She only knew how to respond with what she should feel. Her real emotions had been neglected for so long that they now existed only as a vague emptiness behind her every action. This is a clear sign of living on autopilot, when a person gradually loses touch with the most alive part of themselves. In Greek mythology, there is the story of Echo, a nymph punished by Hera for deceiving her. Hera cursed Echo so she would never again speak her own words, only repeat what others had just said. From then on, Echo could only reflect the sounds of others, never her own voice. She loved Narcissus, but could never express her love. Eventually, she faded away, leaving only her echo behind. Echo is the perfect image of a persona taken too far. When you live only to reflect the gaze of others, you lose the ability to produce your own voice. You don't know what you want, believe, or feel unless someone else confirms it. And gradually, you disappear into your own pleasantness. Carl Jung once wrote, "The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself as well as others think one is." In other words, the persona is the part that both you and others believe is real, but isn't. It is a role rehearsed so well for so long that you forget it is only a role. Have you ever been at a party, smiling, listening, empathizing, then gone home completely drained without knowing why? Or said something soft and agreeable while inside you were raging? That is the sign of a persona that has taken up too much space. When you try to maintain harmony, you often have to cut off parts of your feelings. When you strive to be agreeable, you must sacrifice your true voice. Bit by bit, you no longer feel present in your own life. The truth is, the persona itself isn't wrong. You need it to interact with society. But without awareness, you can spend your entire life maintaining an image that is easy to love, rather than living true to yourself. And that's the loop that keeps you stuck on autopilot, reacting, pleasing, repeating, instead of choosing, experiencing, and truly being present. The saddest part is, when you believe the loved face is your real self, you will feel guilty whenever you want to be real. A frown will make you feel unpleasant. A negative emotion will make you feel weak. And so, you choose to keep playing the role, because that role has kept you included. But here's the truth. Every time you pretend you're okay, you move further from yourself. Every time you say, "I'm fine," when what you really need is a hug, you abandon the most vulnerable part of you. And if that happens over and over, one day you will no longer hear your inner voice at all. So if today you are tired of being fine, tired of being charming, tired of nodding along, this is the time to stop. Start noticing what is the mask and what is the real you. Because only when you are brave enough to take that outer shell off will you truly stop living on autopilot and start being yourself in the fullest sense. If today you are ready to remove the mask you once used to be loved, whisper to yourself, "I don't have to lose myself to be accepted. I am free and radiant when I am real." Sometimes, just such a gentle acknowledgement is enough to begin the journey toward living awake and fully present. And that is the door to the next part, where you will begin to do what most people fear: looking at your own shadow. Number 3. Looking into your inner shadow. The parts you reject. Have you ever wondered why you still feel lost, even when everything seems fine? Your job is stable, your relationship warm enough. People around you think you're doing well. Yet inside, there are moments of emptiness you can't quite name. This is often a sign that you have been living on autopilot for too long, doing only what is safe, acceptable, and avoiding touching deeper parts of yourself. Carl Jung called the part you deliberately avoid the shadow, everything you were taught from childhood not to be. It could be the anger you were scolded for, the envy you deny, or the longing for attention you were told was weakness. You think if you hide them well enough, they will vanish. But no, they simply sink deeper, waiting for the right moment to rise, often when you least expect it. Imagine you're rowing a boat on a lake. You only pay attention to the still surface above, the part This means you cannot truly awaken if you only try to stay positive and bright. You must dare to look into the dark, the uncomfortable, messy, vulnerable parts of yourself. Only when you accept their existence can you stop being controlled by them. Escaping autopilot means daring to look beneath the water to see the true flow. You don't have to change everything immediately, but you can start by listening. When do you react more strongly than usual? Does the emotion come from the present situation, or does it recall an old wound? You can also recognize your shadow through what you judge most in others, because often It is the part you once rejected in yourself. When you dare to face it, you see the shadow is not an enemy. Behind anger is the fear of abandonment. Behind envy is the desire to live your full potential. Behind stubbornness is the longing for freedom. By understanding and accepting this, you are no longer swept away by the undercurrent. You can row toward where you truly want to go, even if the surface still ripples. Here's what many people overlook. The shadow is not only where your bad parts are, it also holds the strengths you have never dared to use. Someone once called too sensitive may have deep empathic ability. Someone called too stubborn may have unwavering willpower. When you shine the light of awareness into those dark corners, you find not only release, but a new source of energy to live true to yourself. Just as in rowing, if you know how to read the currents below, you can use them to go faster instead of being swept unconsciously. Life is the same. When you recognize and integrate your shadow, it becomes the wind that propels you forward. At that point, you don't just stop living on autopilot, you truly steer your own boat toward the destination your heart has long chosen. If you are ready to take the first step with your shadow, leave a below as a whisper to your deepest self. I am ready to see myself. Number 4, learning to listen instead of reacting. One of the clearest signs of living on autopilot is reacting before you even realize what you're doing. Someone says something that touches a nerve, you instantly defend yourself or attack. An unexpected situation arises, you rush to judge, worry, or assign blame. Everything happens so quickly that there's no space to pause and ask, do I truly want to react this way, or am I just repeating an old pattern? Carl Jung once said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. If we slow down enough to listen, not just to the other person's words, but to what's happening inside us, those moments of discomfort can become doors to awakening. When we live fast, we often think we're communicating, but in reality, we're just waiting for our turn to speak. We listen to reply, not to understand. We focus on protecting our image or opinion, rather than truly opening to what the other person is sharing. And in doing so, we miss the chance to see deeper into both the relationship and ourselves. Learning to listen instead of reacting is the practice of creating a pause. When someone says something that touches your pain or triggers your defenses, try breathing slowly, noticing the sensations in your body. Is your heart beating faster? Did an old memory just flash by? Are you afraid of being misunderstood or of losing acceptance? Just a few seconds of observation can reveal that your initial reaction often comes not from the present moment, but from something unhealed in the past. For example, imagine you're in a meeting and a colleague gives blunt feedback on your idea. Your old habit might be to immediately defend your point and prove yourself right. But if you pause, listen, and let their words settle, you might realize you're reacting not just to this criticism, but to a deeper feeling of being judged, similar to when a teacher once scolded you in front of the class. When you understand the root of the feeling, you have more choices. Calmly explain your perspective, ask clarifying questions, or simply note their input for later reflection. Listening isn't just for others, it's also for yourself. When a strong emotion arises, instead of quickly dismissing it or rationalizing it away, let it speak. Ask it, what do you want me to know? Often the feelings that make you most uncomfortable carry the most important messages about what you need. In neuroscience, researchers call this the response gap, the short space between stimulus and action. It's a golden moment where you can choose how to respond with awareness. Quick automatic reactions often come from the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mechanism, triggered when the brain senses danger, even if the threat is just an unpleasant comment. By practicing this pause, you help your nervous system return to balance, allowing your responses to come from clarity rather than reflexive defense. A simple way to begin is to practice active listening. When someone speaks, instead of preparing your reply in your head, focus fully on their words and the emotion. Grown accustomed to living by voices that aren't our own, voices saying, "You must be strong. You can't be wrong. You must be kind. You only have value if you succeed." They play like an old record on loop for years, until you mistake them for your own thoughts. The truth is, many of these voices didn't originate within you. They are psychological inheritances from family, school, community, and the culture you grew up in. Carl Jung called this introjection, internalizing the commands, beliefs, or expectations of others until you believe they are your inner voice. When you let these borrowed voices guide you, you operate like a pre-programmed machine. You make decisions, choose paths, and even define your self-worth according to someone else's standards. Everything happens by habit. You never question whether it truly fits you. And one day, you wake up exhausted, directionless, unsure where you even went. Freeing yourself from voices that aren't yours doesn't mean rejecting all advice or rules. It means learning to observe. Whenever a should thought arises, pause and ask, does this truly come from me? Or is it an echo from the past? The moment you ask this, you create space to separate yourself from unconscious programming. A woman named Anna once wrote to the channel, saying she was the eldest child in an immigrant family in the US. From a young age, she heard repeatedly, "You must succeed to make your parents proud," and "You must set an example for your siblings." She chose law not out of passion, but because it was the secure path that would bring her family pride. After years, Anna became a lawyer at a prestigious firm, high income, respected position, praised by everyone. But inside, she was drained. Each morning she dragged herself out of bed with heaviness. Each night she sank into emptiness. Everything unraveled when she had a panic attack in the middle of a meeting. That's when Anna realized, for years she had been living as a programmed version of herself to please others, without once listening to her true voice. If you don't stop to free yourself from those voices, the cycle will continue. You might achieve success by society's standards, but inside you will still feel depleted because you've never truly lived for yourself. Over time, the gap between your real self and your performed self widens, and when life throws you a curveball, you'll feel completely lost. To break free, start by creating quiet space. A few minutes in the morning before picking up your phone, an afternoon walk with no destination, or a weekend without work can be your starting point. In that space, write down, if I didn't have to please anyone, what would I want today? Next, name the borrowed voice. When a thought appears like, I have to do this so I won't be judged, ask, whose voice is this? Simply recognizing it's not yours is the first step to freedom. Then, try making small choices based on your true voice. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. Start with small things. Wear clothes you genuinely like. Say no to an invitation you don't want to accept. Or spend time on a hobby you once abandoned. Each choice is an affirmation. I am living for me. At times you'll hear the old voice again and be tempted to follow it for the safety it offers. That's normal. The key is to keep returning to the question, if I weren't afraid of being judged, what would I do? Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That privilege will never come if you continue living in autopilot. It will only come when you dare to pause, to question, and to slowly peel away the voices that aren't yours. We are now nearing the end of this journey, and I want to thank you for walking with me to this moment, when you begin stepping out of autopilot, turning inward, and realizing that true magnetism is never measured by someone else's gaze. If what I've shared today has touched something deeper in you, click like to nurture your awakening. Share this with others who are still lost in old scripts, and leave a comment. I choose me as a gentle commitment to living authentically from today. Number 6. The price of awakening. When truth hurts more than illusion. Once you've freed yourself from voices that aren't yours, a profound shift happens. You begin to see the truth about your own life. But once you see it, you can't pretend you don't know. And in that moment you realize, escaping autopilot and becoming your true self will cost you something. Breaking free from a self-driving life isn't just about changing habits or making different choices. It means you are willing to awaken, and awakening always comes with loss. You might lose friends you were once close to, simply because they're used to the old version of you and don't know how to connect with the new one. You might lose the admiration of those who once praised you, now that you no longer live to please them. You might lose roles and images that society once loved you for. At times you may even feel lonely among people who used to feel familiar, because you're no longer acting to fit in. The true price of becoming yourself is giving up false safety, to step into a space that is uncertain but real. There, you can no longer rely on old labels or scripts to know what to do. This is so unsettling that many choose to stay in autopilot rather than face it. A famous example is Adele. At the height of her career, she was adored worldwide, not only for her powerful voice, but for the down-to-earth woman image fans saw in her. But in her 30s, Adele realized her marriage no longer aligned with who she truly was. She shared that if she continued living that way, she would lose herself. Choosing divorce meant facing media pressure, disappointment, only when you dare to step off, to stand alone at an unfamiliar station, do you have the chance to find your real path. Living as yourself means exchanging predictability for uncertainty. It might make you seem lost to those who thought they knew you, but it will help you find real connections where you don't have to perform to be loved. It will help you start listening to your inner wisdom instead of chasing endless shoulds and musts imposed by life. Most importantly, when you're no longer on autopilot, you will feel each moment more vividly. You no longer drift through today just to reach tomorrow. You learn to pause, to notice, to choose. This is how you reclaim authorship of your life, instead of letting it be driven by habit, fear, or other people's expectations. There may be days when you miss the old train with some nostalgia, but you'll realize walking your own road, no matter how steep or winding, is worth more than any safe destination you never wanted. And that is the turning point where you truly escape autopilot and become yourself. Number 7, returning to yourself, when you no longer have to perform. And then, after all the empty spaces, losses, and confusion, there comes a day when you realize you're no longer living by old habits. You no longer have to try so hard to be accepted, no longer strain to please everyone, no longer feel pressure to win every conversation. You simply are yourself. And here's the beautiful part. When you are truly present, the world responds differently. You meet people who match your rhythm. You do things you genuinely want to do, and you feel more at ease in your own skin. Mark, a chef in New York, spent 15 years in the kitchen of a famous restaurant, cooking what diners wanted, not what he loved. He said he used to feel proud when praised, but also increasingly burned out and uninspired. A vacation back home changed everything. He made a beef stew from his grandmother's recipe for his family, and their smiles made him happier than any award ever had. In that moment, Mark realized he had forgotten why he began. He left the big restaurant and opened a small place cooking what he loved, even knowing it would be harder. Olivia, a teacher in California, had a similar pattern. She taught like a machine, following the syllabus, grading, repeating each day. One day, she volunteered to take her students out to the garden to plant vegetables. The whole class laughed when they found a small caterpillar, and Olivia laughed with them. That moment made her realize her joy had never been lost. It had just been buried under pressure and routine. From then on, she brought more creativity into her classes, making learning more alive for both her and her students. The common thread between Mark and Olivia is this: they once lived on autopilot, repeating things until they forgot what truly living felt like. And when they stopped, they didn't just change their work, they changed how they experienced life. Carl Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. What feels comfortable for someone else may be suffocating for you. And you will never feel truly at peace if you keep trying to live in someone else's shoe size." Scientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and create new connections when you start living differently. Every time you choose to do something that reflects your true self, your brain records it and strengthens that pattern until it becomes natural. This shows that with patience, even small steps can lead to a completely different life, the life you actually want. When you're no longer on autopilot, you'll notice choices you once overlooked. One morning, you might decide to walk slowly and enjoy the smell of coffee from a street cafe instead of rushing to the office. You might choose to spend the evening reading a book that moves you instead of scrolling through social media. These small shifts, though seemingly trivial, accumulate into something powerful: the right to decide how you live each day. Living authentically doesn't make life all rosy, but it frees you from fearing who you are. It helps you sleep better, knowing that each day you lived in a way you chose, not in a way imposed on you. And when you look in the mirror, you can smile, not because the face looking back is accepted, but because you realize, finally, it is truly yours. And if you're reading this with a vague feeling that you've lived too long in an old script, trust that you can rewrite it. You don't need to change everything in a day. Just start with small things. Say no when you truly want to refuse. Try something new, even if someone disapproves, or allow yourself to rest without guilt. Each action is a step home. No one else can live your life for you. No one else can decide what truly makes you happy. You may lose some relationships or pass on safe opportunities, but you will gain something irreplaceable: the peace of knowing you are living true to yourself. And perhaps you'll realize something simple. When you stop performing, stop trying to fit perfectly into the world, you not only find yourself, you also find the people who truly see you. If you've ever had a moment of waking up from autopilot and starting to live your own way, share your story in the comments, because your experience might be